Krypton, Human Target, Galavant, Dig. That might all sound like nonsense to you, but the truth is, these are some of the most underrated TV shows of the 2010s. When Sci-Fi rebranded itself in 2009, the cable network added a number of new shows to its already impressive roster. Some did well, others didn't, and Alphas definitely fell into the latter category. Co-created by the Incredible Hulk and X-Men The Last Stand screenwriter Zach Penn and starring David Strathairn, this series redeveloped the superhero concept into something a bit like NBC's Heroes, albeit with a procedural edge. The story follows a team of superhumans working for the CIA who investigate cases involving other so-called alphas. In a clever twist on the superhero concept, each of the show's lead characters suffers a downside to their unique abilities. The man with super strength puts too much strain on his heart as a result. The woman who can control people's minds gradually loses her sanity. The Marine with hyperkinesis has a tumor growing in his head, and so on. If you're sick of superhero stories filled with overpowered characters, then Alphas is for you. Still, despite being Sci-Fi's most watched debut in years, ratings for the show progressively dropped, and Alphas was canceled after its second season. Back when networks were still hesitant to greenlight superhero shows, some were still open to the idea of less traditional comic book adaptations. In 2010, Human Target premiered on Fox, bringing the DC Comics character Christopher Chance to life on the small screen with Mark Valley in the title role. The show follows Chance and his team as they protect their clients from malicious forces, with Chance integrating himself into their personal lives to become something of a human target.
Are you crazy? Am I crazy? I'm assuming that was a rhetorical question.
Blending action, suspense, and comedy, Human Target was quite unlike many of the other action-based procedurals that audiences were used to. And with shorter 10-episode seasons, the show could afford to do things a bit differently. Human Target only improved in its second season, but despite a positive response from both critics and fans, Fox deemed the show to be a mid-season flop and canceled it after season 2. Nowadays, westerns are all the rage, and if you love Paramount's Yellowstone prequel 1923, you'd be remiss not to try out Netflix's short-lived depression western Damnation. A co-production between the streaming giant and Universal, the series was described by its creator Tony Tost as a mix of Clint Eastwood, John Steinbeck, and James Ellroy. He told the Fayetteville Flyer, "It takes some characters you'd normally see in a tough western, plops them in the world of Grapes of Wrath, and places them in the sort of pulpy paranoid narrative you see in Ellroy's novels." The show stars Killian Scott as Seth, a Marxist revolutionary living in hiding. Logan Marshall Green, meanwhile, plays Creeley Turner, who turns out to be Seth's estranged brother and a merciless strikebreaker. Damnation was a powerful period drama about the labor wars in America that didn't quite do it for audiences, and the show was promptly canceled. Unfortunately, like many streaming shows that suffered similar fates, the first and only season of Damnation was quickly and quietly removed from Netflix. Another DC Comics series that sadly didn't go anywhere was Sci-Fi's Krypton. After TV execs realized there was real money in straight-up superhero content, it seemed like nothing could stop the great wave of comic book madness. Krypton 2 rode that wave, but what started as a run-of-the-mill Superman prequel soon turned into something far more compelling. Following the grandfather of Superman, Seg-El, Krypton doubled as a prequel and a time-travel story about saving Superman from his greatest enemies. Taking inspiration from Zack Snyder's Man of Steel and the original DC Comics, Krypton quickly made a name for itself in the Superman canon. And it also gave us arguably the best adaptations of villains such as Brainiac, Doomsday, and Lobo.
Damn, Siegel. Who's gonna kill you last? Oh well.
More than that, Krypton enjoyed incredible long-term potential. Before it was unceremoniously canceled after a massive cliffhanger, that is. Thankfully, we all know how the Krypton story ends, but this was still a show that could have done so much more with just a little more time. Developed by Tyrant co-creator Gideon Raff and Heroes creator Tim Kring, Dig is an apocalyptic mystery thriller that revolves around a global conspiracy. Jason Isaacs stars as FBI Special Agent Peter Connolly, a man trying to solve an American murder in Jerusalem, only to stumble upon something else entirely. In many ways, Dig was ahead of its time. Even when it first aired on the USA Network, the series stoked controversy for its depiction of the Israel-Palestine conflict. But Isaacs and his co-stars did a sterling job with their parts, while Raff and Kring tackled religious, political, and social issues in a way few dared at that time. In the end, low ratings killed any chance of a second season for Dig, but thankfully, the first season works pretty well as a standalone miniseries. Following the finale, Jason Isaacs told Variety, "The only reason to do it again would be if someone came up with a magnificent story. But it'll be fine not to do it. I won't feel like we didn't get to finish." Who would have thought that a show about sick and dying teenagers could be so funny, energetic, and delightful? Well, that's exactly what happened with Red Band Society. Developed by Margaret Nagel and produced by Steven Spielberg's Amblin television brand, the series was sadly axed by Fox before its first season was even through, airing the rest of the episodes later on. The self-titled Red Band Society is probably the best part of the show too. Sure, hormones get in the way at times, but for the most part these kids stick together, and their doctors and nurses do the same. The way the show ends with an emphatic rendition of the Rolling Stones' "You Can't Always Get What You Want," performed by the young cast, is a beautiful tribute to a show gone too soon and reflects the camaraderie of these incredibly lovable characters. Red Band Society is one of the few canceled shows that can be enjoyed just as is. Although it had untapped potential, the 13 episodes we got worked just as well by themselves. Taking cues from Blade Runner, Terminator, and basically every other sci-fi franchise that deals with the relationship between man and machines, Almost Human was created by Fringe showrunner J.H. Wyman, with J.J. Abrams serving as an executive producer. The show takes place in 2048 and follows the detective John Kennicks and his new synthetic partner Dorian as they patrol the streets of their futuristic city. This cyberpunk series is a cop drama at heart, but one with enough robotic flair to keep sci-fi fans interested too.
I don't make the rules, I enforce them, and apparently I'm the only one who follows them.
You know what, you should break a rule or two now and then. Look good on you.
Kennicks and Dorian were a great pair to watch operate alongside one another week after week, and their journey towards accepting each other made a compelling arc in the lead up to the season and series finale. Sadly, audiences didn't seem to take a shine to this show, and Almost Human was unplugged after a serious decline in viewership. Too bad too, this one could have easily gone on a few more years. After creating Supernatural, Eric Kripke partnered with J.J. Abrams and Jon Favreau to develop a post-apocalyptic series for NBC called Revolution. The show's ratings fared well at first, though the story itself got off to a rocky start. Telling the tale of a world that loses electricity due to a nanite virus, by the time Revolution decided what sort of show it wanted to be, it had already lost a good chunk of its audience. But NBC believed in the show and renewed it for a full sophomore season. For a moment, it seemed like Revolution might survive after all. While the show struggled to find its footing, it featured a number of excellent characters portrayed by some of TV's finest luminaries, making the show fun to watch, if nothing else. While uneven ratings ultimately killed Revolution, fan outcry led the show's creators to partner with DC Comics for a 4-part finale comic that wrapped up the story. After the success of Glee, other networks jumped on the idea of a comedy drama series led primarily by music. The short-lived Smash, for example, was an obvious ripoff, but the most imaginative of the post-Glee musical shows was undoubtedly Galavant. A marriage of fantasy and comedy with a musical twist made Galavant something unique to network television. Following Joshua Sass as the titular knight and Timothy Amundsen as the petulant King Richard, it really doesn't get more outlandish than this.
Adventure awaits.
A strange mix of Monty Python and The Princess Bride, Galavant was never afraid to push the envelope, and the show itself was better for it. After an 8-episode first season, Galavant was given 10 episodes for its second. Sadly, that would be all, as ABC cut loose the 7 realms for low ratings. But never fear, Galavant fans, this one ended with a genuine happily ever after, meaning you won't be left with any frustrating cliffhangers or Season 2 setups. Continuum might not be well known to most TV fans, but this Canadian sci-fi series deserved a lot better than what it got. Centering on a cop named Kira Cameron who travels from 2077 back to 2012 after a terrorist group plans to destroy their future, Continuum covers everything from the butterfly effect and corporate crime to the development of new technologies and the effects of social media. This time travel series is one of a kind, and yet, despite airing for 4 seasons and 42 episodes in total, it was never really considered a hit. Creator Simon Barry had major plans for the thrilling cop drama turned hard sci-fi series, but Continuum didn't get enough traction in either Canada or the US. After a 4th and final season was ordered, that was it for the show. At the time, star Rachel Nichols said, "All great stories deserve an end. I'm excited and grateful to finish Continuum with the riveting conclusion it deserves." Movies becoming television shows was a recurring theme in the 2010s. From Fargo to Limitless to Minority Report, many of these shows remained on familiar ground and didn't stray too far from what made their cinematic counterparts so iconic. Meanwhile, Fox's Exorcist series continued the story of the 1973 film into the 21st century.
This prattling, they just won't stop.
Forgetting about the other Exorcist sequels entirely, the Fox series picks up decades later and follows priests Tomas Ortega and Marcus Keene as they deal with the return of a dark demon from the franchise's past. This serialized take on the Exorcist story takes some serious turns from the original, but remains an excellent sequel nevertheless. Both a supernatural and psychological horror show, The Exorcist leans into everything that worked about the original film while adding extra layers of character depth and lore. With two 10-episode seasons, the show remains a favorite to many, with some considering it the best ever sequel to the original Exorcist. While the show's ratings slipped during its second season, leading to its ultimate cancellation, 2023's critically panned Exorcist reboot led many fans and critics to reappraise Fox's TV series. Based on the historical figure of the same name, Marco Polo seemed like it would be an instant success for Netflix. The streaming giant had only a few original series by the time Marco Polo debuted, but House of Cards and Orange is the New Black proved to be critical, award, and audience hits. So this original historical drama, which the streamer brought from its original home at Starz, made perfect sense as a way to capture the Game of Thrones crowd. Starring Lorenzo Riquelme as the titular hero and Benedict Wong as Kubla Khan, the show is rich in character drama, epic battle sequences, and more than enough adventure to get your blood pumping. Wong especially is phenomenal in Marco Polo. While the immense scale of the series is nothing short of staggering, it was actually one of TV's most expensive shows at the time. Unfortunately, the whole thing was a wash for Netflix. Instead of continuing for a third season, Marco Polo was canned by the streamer, and just as things were getting exciting too. But the choice was justified by insiders who claimed that Marco Polo had been directly responsible for a loss of $200 million.